Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal is likely to table the One Nation, One Election bill in the Lok Sabha tomorrow on the 17th of December. While the government is arguing that the bill will reduce costs, time and energy spent on elections, it is just one of the massive reforms that India will be witnessing, which will significantly change how we as a nation vote. We examine these four big changes that will take place. Let me quickly take our viewers through what is it that I'm talking about. Viewers, change number one that we're looking at is the Women's Reservation Bill. This is done, right? All political parties back this. It's a given that this will happen, but what really changes is that 33% of seats in the parliament will be reserved for women from 2029. The second big change that will take place is delimitation, the exercise to take place in 2026. This is a likely change. It's in the talks, but of course, constituencies will then be redrawn as per the 2025 census, and that will definitely change what seats will then go to women, which seats will be retained for both the genders, and so many other factors will of course come into play as far as delimitation is concerned, how the voting population of a particular area will change altogether basis the exercise that takes place in 2026. The third big change that we're talking about is the increase in parliamentary seats. The new Parliament has been built with a larger capacity to house over 800 members of Lok Sabha. It's currently at 543. The new Parliament has a seating capacity, like I said, of 888. The reason why the government wants to hold the census as well as the delimitation exercise is because the next logical change will be increasing the number of MPs. This is a hot topic, a hot debate between parliamentarians. Some believe that this is a useless exercise, while others believe that this is the need of the hour for better governance. That debate will continue, but this is also a likely change that is expected to take place before 2029. And last but not least is of course the most debated and controversial topic of the hour, which is the One Nation, One Election bill. Once again, a likely change. What it proposes is simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies starting from 2034. So these are the four big changes that we are likely to now witness be introduced in India's electoral system in the next 5 years. How these changes will impact the way India will vote in the years to come, that's the conversation I take forward. I have with me on the broadcast Priya Sehgal, Editorial Director of NewsX. We have Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, and Gautam Mukherjee, Senior Journalist, with us as well. Let me begin this conversation with Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, in your assessment, sir, some of these changes that are being brought about, women's reservation, like I said, all political parties back it. There's no one for obvious reasons who is against women's reservation, but in a logical sequence, we have women's reservation, we have delimitation, then we increase the number of members of parliament, and eventually we have one nation, one election. How do you view all of these four changes impacting not just elections in India, but also altering India's political landscape in the years to come?
Yeah, Devika, Narendra Modi from a very young age, from his teens in fact, has had this vision of transforming India. And he was able to start that particular mission early in life when he worked as a pracharak and then as General Secretary of the BJP, and subsequently, of course, as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and then the Prime Minister. Every one of these stints has been an effort to be transformative. And this particular effort, I think we are seeing a situation in which he is going for the total transformation that he wants for the country. And I think, given a fourth term, it will be achieved. It's not going to be an easy process. There's going to be a lot of opposition. There's going to be a lot of need for compromises. And for example, the South may feel extremely bad that the number of seats it's got is going to be much less now, when actually it is the result of the fact that the South has taken this family planning seriously, while some other parts of the country have not. So it cannot be a lopsided system in which one zone of the country, east, west, north, south, has overwhelming electoral power over the other three zones. So there is going to be need for compromises, and this is only the beginning of the process. I'm sure the Prime Minister, in the next 2 or 3 years, is going to work on several of the compromises, and one by one he will get these proposals implemented in a revised form if necessary, and he is going to get them into by the end of the 4th term. The whole structure should be intact and running. So I think this is a program not just for the 3rd term, but for a 4th term. It's truly a transformative program, and it's truly a program in which there's going to be a lot of debate, discussion, argument, and the need to find compromises. And I think that is something the Prime Minister will welcome, and that is something that the nation would welcome, a healthy debate on this, in which violence is avoided, so that finally a consensus is reached and you have a transformation. So I think that, Devika, transformation is essential. There's no doubt about it. We have crossed 75 years of age. It's high time for a transformation for the next 75 years. And this particular effort is basically Prime Minister Modi indicating that he is still going forward on that transformative mission. But in my view, it will be completed by the end of his 4th term. Thank you, Devika.
Okay, Priya Sagar, bring you into the conversation. Priya, your thoughts on the same as well. I'd just like to understand from you, if all of these changes which are proposed are to take place, how do you view them to be impacting India's political landscape? These will possibly be some of the biggest electoral revolutions that will take place in India as far as this century is concerned. Ma'am, I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So as I was saying, I'm not surprised that it is Prime Minister Modi who is actually ushering in these changes, because he is, someone who does take bold decisions. The first step would be delimitation. In that, its time has come. There has been, the country, a vast country, a lot has changed since the first parliament. There is need to bring in more representation. But in terms of how accurate it would be, how, the South has already raised an apprehension that they are going to be punished for population control. So there's going to be a lot of what's it called, balancing act that needs to be done. The women's representation, again, a bill that has been pending for so long. It was there in theory, but it's only again this government that has actually managed to bring this bill through and bring in the women's reservation, caste census. So there's a whole lot of things that are happening. I think the new parliament building itself is the epitome of the kind of changes that's being ushered in. One nation, one election, again, something that needs to be done. But again, I'm also, all these are great on paper, Devika. My apprehension is how does this translate into reality? And that's where this government has a huge, I have a lot of apprehensions about how they would do it, because they are great in terms, demonetization, great, concept in the sense the idea and the intent was good, but the implementation was disastrous. So that's what is the worrying factor, that they have the good intent, but what happens in implementation is something I would be apprehensive about. All the things are great on paper. One nation, one election. Again, they need 2/3 majority. I doubt their own allies, JDU and TDP, is going to be on board. But they're good debating points. It's something that the country needs to look at going forward. I think it's good. It's on the table. Let it be thrashed out, and let's, as I said, let's see how it's implemented. That's my main concern.
Yes, Priya Sagal, at the same time, does the current government then really even have the numbers to take some of these ideas from theory to practice, even as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned? This will not be the first government that will be facing some sort of resistance from the southern parties. It's been going on since the time of Indira Gandhi. That was precisely the reason why it was frozen at the 1971 numbers. But even Atal Bihari Vajpayee was not able to really manage to convince the southern parties during his tenure.
No, exactly. And but that is where Prime Minister Modi comes in. Can he afford to alienate the South? And because the way the numbers are going to stack up, whoever rules UP is going to be ruling India. The way the population figures are going to be. So that's going to be a decision. It's going to be very interesting. Even the idea of it, because the South has already said that this is anti-us, and there's a huge feeling of alienation. So will Prime Minister take that risk? One is implementation. One is, as I said, the intent and bringing the idea to the table. The one who brings the idea to the table becomes the bad guy or the good guy, depending which way the chips fall. So on delimitation, that he's taken this bold step, I'm trying to figure out what his motive behind this is, because it is a risk. You are going to be alienating a huge chunk of the country. But at the other hand, if it goes through, which I doubt is going to go through because there is so much pushback also. But in this, there's a cross-party also. If you see, I was asking someone from the South, and they said it's not a BJP versus Congress versus opposition thing. It's a North versus South thing. Cross-party parties from the North are happy with Gajar representation in the North, and parties from the South are unhappy. So that's also something that we're going to see how that plays out.
Okay, Gautam Mukherjee, bringing you to the conversation. Gautam Mukherjee, your thoughts on how the BJP will really maneuver some of the next steps after the delimitation exercise really does take place. If we're talking about an increase in the number of MPs, that idea in itself, while one would think that parliamentarians would probably be, or political parties would be very happy with that, that idea also faces some resistance. What will it take then for Narendra Modi and his government to really convince the political parties on the other side that this is perhaps the best way forward?
Well, Devika, if you connect the dots from the kind of moves that have been made even before this government came to power, the EVMs. The EVMs are fairly unique to India. For a country of this size and an electorate of this size, we have implemented EVMs through thick and thin. Then GST took 18, 19 years in the discussion and in the languishing, and then it got implemented. Then it got, if you like, refined. It's still being refined. It has proved to be a great success, just like the EVMs. And I believe that all of these moves that are being made now are not, cast iron moves. They are indicative. These are bills that will be placed. They will go to, parliamentary committees. There will be a lot of discussion. There will be changes. And if the big problem is, a domination because of population, we go back to the pre-independence idea of proportional representation. You have a way to balance this. It's like balancing a car. You put weights on one side, you put less weights on the other, or whatever it is, and then try it out, and it works, and that's fine. So this is how we will proceed. But it is no reason to derail the entire process or to fear progress for the sake of it. Now, Narendra Modi in his mid-70s now may not be there to implement the actual working of it down the road, but probably the BJP will be, because the Congress is in a shambles, unlikely to revive, and the rest of the regional parties are shrinking as well, except for, if you like, the parties like the DMK. The DMK is, still standing strong, but it is one-man parties, it is father and son parties, and most of them come a cropper after a while. It's happened to, Mulayam Singh and in UP, and there is no reason why it won't happen to the DMK as well. So it is these nationalist, national parties that will go through. But where's the national party? The only national party I think that will survive the distance is the BJP, because Aam Aadmi Party, which had ambitions of being a national party, is one in name because it's got the odd seat in Gujarat and of course Punjab. It's got a government in Punjab. The Congress, 3 states, and no ideas that work. So it will be a one-party democracy, perhaps, which is something a bit disconcerting, especially with a fragmented and weak opposition. And the implementation of their ideas is inevitable. Devika.
Gautam Mukherjee, at the same time, the fact that is technically speaking, a one nation, one election is only likely to come into force from 2034. But how crucial was it then for the current government to start the conversation around it? Because that's perhaps going to be one of the biggest electoral changes that India will witness, if it does actually take place.
Well, this government is again on the upswing. After 2 terms with brute majorities, the third term looked like they were, not in a position to initiate bold changes because they were dependent on allies. That situation is changing as they win crucial states like Maharashtra and are well poised in the forthcoming elections elsewhere. That the implementation of this, I agree with you, is in the fairly distant future. But having said that, the ability of this government, and especially a charismatic leader like Narendra Modi, to put this on the map and on its way is very much possible if it is left to languish after the Covid committee has gone into it and produced a document of considerable heft and depth. Would be sad, because this has been taken on as a serious exercise. It will be, given the contours, I think, through this term, and implementation will be, I think, in a post-Modi era, as I said, under the BJP.
Okay, Priya Sehgal, bring you back into the conversation. Ma'am, I want to understand from you.
I'm here.
I want to understand from you. Like I said, the implementation of some of these changes, as keeping the women's reservation bill aside, the implementation of a one nation, one election, like I said, technically we're looking at 2034. Delimitation, yes, the exercise will happen, but the fine tuning will also then take some more time. As far as increasing the number of member of parliamentarians is concerned, that's a topic up for discussion right now. That's an idea out there. We've built the infrastructure for it. But when that will happen, nobody really has any clarity on that. Essentially, is the BJP then really laying the grounds for some of the conversations that we will be having up until 2029?
I think so, Devika, which, they are definitely, they've got, they want to start a new debate going. Prime Minister Modi is also very, keen to leave some sort of a legacy behind. He has this huge competition with Nehru going on anyway. He wants to now leave his own mark. Hence, a new building, a new parliament, a new concept, a new content. So I think keeping all that in mind, he is determined to do something, what works out. There are a whole lot of proposals on the table. Let's see which ones works out. Some of them are good, some of them, I think they all deserve a debate at the end of the day. That's, I think we owe that to his ideas and to the all the proposals, because as I think Gautam said also, they've been pending for a while. It's not something that he's really thought of. There has been in the wings, women reservation, delimitation. These ideas have been doing the rounds. But I also want to, I remember the conversation I think, Devika, you had with Karti Chidambaram at our conclave.
Yes.
The other day at the legal conclave, where he made a very good point. He said, you can't run the house in these numbers. How are you going to have 800 plus when you can't run it, with the 500 plus numbers? I think they made the arrangements are for 800 seats in the new Lok Sabha, which is right. There's going to be more chaos. Let's run the house first before we start expanding the house. That needs to be done. How will it happen? As it is, people are not getting a chance to speak, all the MPs, all the parties. How are they going to figure that logistic out? So it's going to be very interesting. to see what exactly happens. And these are all, interesting ideas on the table. Women representation again is something that one has really waited for, and it should have happened much earlier. Even today, I don't know why parties are waiting for the bill to be implemented and the census or whatever to be done. Each party can actually go ahead and do it. Mamata Banerjee did it. BJP has done it. Why don't the BJP and the Congress do it and give tickets to 33% women if they are so keen on women reservations? So, we'll also see exactly which party stands where on various issues now. I'm very keen to see one nation, one election. How serious is even the BJP on it, they say things, they implement things, they start a debate going, but the practicality, the implementation, do they really want it? A lot of BJP leaders privately don't want it. Regional leaders do not want it. They're against it. Most of the people I've spoken to, especially those in power. So it's going to be very interesting to see how a consensus is brought about and the kinds of debate that happen. I'm hoping that we see some good weighty debates. We haven't seen the debates, since the making of a nation debates. This is now a making of a new age, a new era. Let's have some weighty debates. Let's have some debates that we can look back and say whether it was finally implemented or not. But wow, look at the ideas that were exchanged. That's something I'm hoping will happen.
Okay, Professor Madhav Nalapat, bringing you back into the conversation, so I want to understand from your perspective, does the onus then today lie on Narendra Modi and his government and his party to really then convince not just the people but also the parliamentarians that these ideas are worth having mature conversations about? As Priya Sehgal and Gautam Mukherjee also pointed out, in fact, everyone that we've spoken to on this matter has said that these ideas do deserve a debate in Parliament. Whether they're implemented or not is a different matter. But does the onus then somewhere lie on the present government and also on Narendra Modi to convince the parliamentarians that let's have a healthy debate on these subjects? And how do you think he's going to go about that?
Well, look, first of all, I apologize for lack of light. There is a power failure, and that's what's caused it. But I want to say, Devika, that these are indeed transformative proposals. There's no question about it. Women's reservation is a proposal that ought to have been implemented in the 50s or 60s. It's finally coming, and I think it will be an easy sell. It's not going to be difficult to get it passed, hopefully. One doesn't know, because there is still a lot of resistance to that. But the reality is it's very essential that our women get represented, because frankly, that will help improve the position of women in locations where the position is not very good. In Kerala, that situation does not really arise very much, but in other parts of the country, it arises quite a lot. And the country is being denied the benefits of equal participation of women in education, in health services. And frankly, the better you treat the women of any particular region, the faster the development. That's been clearly made out by statistics. Now, one thing I'll tell you, this clearly shows that the Prime Minister is completely free of any kind of communal thinking. Because in both UP and Bihar, the population segment that's got the highest rate of growth is not the Hindu population. It's the minority population. So the Prime Minister Modi is aware of all these facts, and still he's going ahead with it. So I would like to say that it shows very clearly that the Prime Minister is absolutely genuine when he talks of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Now, the important thing is to ensure that just as you have high population, where we have to feed that population, educate that population, look after its health care. If you have this kind of a situation taking place, we have to provide those facilities. And I think for the next 6-7 years, the effort has got to be to provide better health care, better housing, better education, and above all, better job opportunities. Then the country will be ready for further transformative change. So these are fundamentals to change. This is the foundation of change. And this foundation, Prime Minister is now attempting to do it. He's doing it in a way completely free of any kind of bias towards any religion or the other. And you can see that happen in real time. That's why I said that by 2034, I think all these changes will be put in place with modifications. And I think it's good that in the parliamentary system we have modifications, because certainly the southern states are going to be extremely upset by this, because they will be completely marginalized in any parliament. They'll have no voice whatsoever. And in fact, when you look at the tax contribution, you will find that their tax contribution is relatively very high compared to some other regions. So I think all told, if the Prime Minister is aware of that and he's willing to go for the compromises, so I think I have every confidence that by 2034, you're going to see the transformative change that the Prime Minister wants after a process of deliberation, debate, discussion, and adjustment to in the process of that. And there you are. See, the light has come on. So in 1934, the lights are going to shine all across India thanks to Narendra Modi.
Yes, absolutely. I've run out of time, but I thank all of our experts and panelists for joining us to take this very pertinent and wonderful conversation forward. With that, viewers, we have to step into a very quick break.